I usually stay out of these conversations, but with Caitlin Clark, I can't stay silent anymore.
Michael Jordan didn't just walk up to the mic, he owned the moment. What began as a simple tribute quickly turned into one of the most unforgettable speeches in recent basketball memory. Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham weren't just honored, they were floored. With a voice steady and sharp, Jordan painted a picture of their impact that no one saw coming. This wasn't about past glory, it was about the future of the game and who's carrying it now. So, what exactly did he say? Buckle up, this moment speaks louder than applause. When Michael Jordan spoke their names. Michael Jordan rarely speaks publicly about women's basketball. His words, especially off the court, are usually measured, reserved, and saved for moments he deems meaningful. So when he recently made a candid remark about Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, without a script, without a spotlight, the impact was immediate. There was no stage, no press release, just his quiet authority recognizing two women who are redefining what greatness looks like in today's game. What stood out wasn't just that he spoke, but what he chose to say. Caitlin Clark's name is already everywhere. Her rookie season has shattered long-standing WNBA records. Attendance numbers are up, television ratings are soaring. But Jordan didn't focus on any of that. He looked beyond the surface, describing her style as something you don't coach, you just watch. According to him, it wasn't her shot selection or stat line that impressed him most. It was her presence. She owns the moment, he said. Some players need time to warm up to the spotlight. She walked in already on fire. Clark's game has long drawn comparisons to the best in the business, men or women. Her limitless range and uncanny court vision have made her a fan favorite. But Jordan's words gave it a different kind of validation, not a comparison, but a recognition. He didn't see her as the future of women's basketball. He saw her as the present of basketball, period. And then, almost unexpectedly, he turned the conversation towards Sophie Cunningham. While Sophie may not receive the same flood of media coverage, Jordan was clear. Her impact is just as critical. He called her a storm in sneakers, the kind of player who doesn't chase the limelight but changes the game every time she steps on the floor. He pointed out her grit, her refusal to back down, her ability to throw herself into plays that most would hesitate to touch. She plays like it's personal, he said. And in this game, that's what separates players from competitors. That kind of recognition from someone like Jordan, who built his legacy on turning competition into obsession, meant something deeper. Sophie wasn't being praised for popularity or headlines. She was being acknowledged for the fire that burns beneath every screen, rebound, and defensive stop. This wasn't a PR stunt. It wasn't about launching a brand or pushing a campaign. It was a genuine moment from a legend who's seen the game from every angle. What he recognized in Clark and Cunningham wasn't just talent. It was a signal. The future of basketball isn't approaching. It's already arrived. With just a few carefully chosen words, Jordan cut through years of noise surrounding women's visibility in sports. Without a single camera rolling, he achieved what full-page endorsements often miss. He made people feel the shift. And when a voice like his speaks, even softly, the entire court listens. And was Jordan's unexpected gesture just support, or the start of something much bigger? Keep watching, because what came next caught everyone off guard. The legends weigh in when greatness recognizes its reflection. One of the most unexpected yet telling responses came from Larry Bird, a man who rarely offers public praise, especially without reason. Known for his reserved demeanor and sharp eye for true talent, Bird didn't just mention Clark. He placed her in the same breath as the basketball that shaped his youth. Recalling the 2023 to 2024 season, Bird revealed almost casually that he watched more Iowa Hawkeyes games than he had planned, comparing Caitlin Clark's performance to his own days at Indiana State. That wasn't just nostalgia speaking, it was respect. For someone who built his legacy on precision, grit, and unmatched basketball IQ, Bird's subtle but powerful nod sent a clear message. Clark wasn't just dominating women's college basketball, she was redefining the sport as a whole. But Bird wasn't alone. Another towering figure, literally and symbolically, added his voice to the growing chorus. Shaquille O'Neal, long admired for his loyalty to LSU and Angel Reese, offered a surprising shift in perspective. Initially seen as an advocate for Clark's fiercest rival, Shaq stunned fans during a broadcast when he paused to acknowledge what many already suspected. Caitlin Clark had won him over. He wasn't speaking as a commentator or a critic, he was speaking as a fan. "I'm not Shaq right now," he said. "I'm a fan." That simple declaration set the tone for what followed. He admitted he doubted whether Clark's TV presence could match her on-court performance, but what he saw firsthand left no room for doubt. Her vision, her leadership, her decision-making. She wasn't just putting up numbers. She was making the right plays, every time. To hear that from one of the most dominant players in NBA history, a player who changed the center position and bullied his way into 4 championships, was not just validation, it was revelation. But what makes this moment even more significant is that it's not happening in isolation. It's happening while Sophie Cunningham is being praised for something less flashy but equally vital: consistency, hustle, and toughness. While Clark's brilliance draws the spotlight, Sophie's grind earns the nods behind the scenes, the kind Jordan himself highlighted, the kind Bird and Shaq both recognize from their own journeys. As these two women carve different yet complementary paths in the league, they're forcing the sport's most iconic names to reevaluate what greatness looks like now. And the fact that that acknowledgement is coming from legends who know exactly what it takes to carry a franchise, or even a league, makes it all the more meaningful. And when the spotlight intensified, was the real story told in the plays, or in who showed up when it mattered most? Don't blink, because what comes next changes everything. Why legends are betting on Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. Across arenas, conversations are shifting, not because of hype, but because Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham are giving the basketball world something it's rarely seen. Two women with completely different styles redefining what it means to lead, compete, and elevate an entire league. For all their contrasts, Clark with her flashy range and fast break flair, Sophie with her bruising intensity and veteran grit. What draws basketball legends to them isn't just stats, it's substance. Tyrese Halliburton sees it. The Indiana Pacers guard, who knows a thing or two about carrying the hopes of a city, speaks of Caitlin not like a fan, but as a peer. "Just 2-point guards trying to lead," he said, his admiration clear. It wasn't an empty gesture. He shows up at her games, supports her publicly, and recognizes the weight she's carrying in Indiana. A franchise still rebuilding, now buzzing because of her presence. He doesn't just respect her skills, he understands the pressure she's facing. That's what leadership looks like across generations. But this gravitational pull isn't limited to fans and teammates. It's affecting free agency. As sports commentator Jason Whitlock bluntly pointed out, people want to play with Caitlin Clark. That single sentence slices through the noise. In a league where rosters shift constantly and chemistry is currency, Clark is now the magnet. It's not about marketing dollars or market size anymore. It's about culture. Teammates want trust, discipline, and direction. Clark delivers all three. And it's not just Clark pulling eyes. Sophie Cunningham, traded to Indiana in 2025, didn't come to blend in. She came to change the beat. If Clark is the future's face, Sophie is its steel. Her journey from Columbia to Phoenix and now to Indiana has never been about flash. It's been about force. She doesn't score 30 a night, but she will take a charge, hit a clutch three, and rally a locker room like few can. Her defense is suffocating, her energy contagious. And when Clark took a hard foul during a tense matchup in June, it was Sophie who stormed across the court to protect her. No hesitation, no apology. That moment wasn't about drama, it was about message. Cunningham wasn't just guarding a teammate, she was defending a new culture in Indiana, one built on fearlessness and unity. The stat sheet may not capture her value, but watch any Fever game, and her impact pulses through every possession. She's the one diving for loose balls, barking out rotations, shifting momentum without needing her name in lights. That's exactly why legends are paying attention. They aren't just throwing their weight behind any WNBA stars. They're choosing Clark and Cunningham because they see something deeper: raw drive, authentic toughness, and the kind of leadership that doesn't vanish under pressure. This is no passing moment. It's a movement, one defined not just by who scores, but by who commands respect when it counts. The defining moments of Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham. For Caitlin Clark, one of those moments came not on the court, but in the form of a list she wasn't on. When the 2024 U.S. Olympic team was announced and her name was missing, the silence that followed said more than any press release could. This was the player who had electrified college arenas, spiked viewership records, and pulled women's basketball into the mainstream conversation, left off the biggest stage in global sports. The disappointment echoed loudly among fans, but Caitlin didn't add to the noise. She didn't speak. She worked. That omission, intentional or not, handed Clark something rare: space. Free from the noise of Olympic coverage and global schedules, she returned to what she knew best: refining, training, reloading. There were no camera crews following her into the gym, no urgent updates about her next move. Just sweat, just film study, just the sharp, quiet rhythm of someone turning doubt into fuel. Dwight Howard, watching from afar, called it for what it was: a challenge, and he didn't expect her to fold. He expected her to evolve. Meanwhile, criticism was swirling from corners of the basketball world. Former NBA guard Jeff Teague didn't hold back. To him, the WNBA missed a huge opportunity, not just in leaving Clark off the Olympic roster, but in failing to fully embrace the impact she was already having. They played this all wrong, he said. The surge in ticket sales, the explosion of merch, the spike in attendance. Clark wasn't just a talented rookie, she was the axis of a movement. Yet the treatment she received on the floor felt more like a warning shot than a welcome mat. And Rick Barry, a Hall of Famer who'd seen decades of hard fouls and physical matchups, found the treatment unacceptable. It's personal, he said of the way Clark was being targeted by defenders. From a legend who once thrived in the grittiest era of basketball, those words carried weight. But Clark didn't complain. Every bump, every cheap shot, every cold shoulder, she absorbed it all, answering not with interviews, but execution. A silent uprising was underway. But if Caitlin was the calm in the storm, Sophie Cunningham was the storm itself. When Indiana stumbled through early season inconsistency, Sophie didn't tiptoe around the issue. She called it out. In the wake of a frustrating loss in June 2025, she stood at the podium, voice steady but eyes blazing. Why are we not being consistent? It wasn't a question, it was a demand. A challenge to her teammates, her coaches, and even herself. That kind of fire didn't come with empty promises. When Clark sat out a preseason matchup, it was Sophie who stepped up, calmly sinking the free throws that forced overtime and helped clinch the win. And when the Fever shot just 30% from the field in a crushing home defeat, Sophie didn't mince words. We owe the fans. Her message wasn't rehearsed, it was real. And the team heard her. Then came her breakout against Atlanta, 16 points, 10 rebounds. Her first double-double of the season, and she met it with a sly grin and the line, "It's about dang time." Even her humor came wrapped in responsibility. She wasn't playing for stats, she was playing for accountability, for cohesion, for every fan who stayed in their seat during tough stretches. Cunningham wasn't just contributing off the bench, she was carving out a role as the emotional compass of the Fever. When the locker room got quiet, Sophie got louder. When energy dipped, she brought spark. And when Clark was drawing heat from opponents and doubters alike, it was Sophie who stood closest, protecting the team's momentum. And if that moment changed how the world saw them, could what unfolded next for Sophie Cunningham rewrite the rules of power in women's basketball? Don't blink, what comes next may surprise you. The power shift beneath the spotlight. In just one season, Clark didn't simply break records, she rewrote the business of women's basketball. Drafted first overall in 2024 by the Indiana Fever, her rookie year triggered a national wave of attention, packing arenas that once struggled to sell tickets and drawing over 1 million TV viewers for regular season games. Yet the fascination with Clark extended far beyond her on-court performance. Her digital reach and cultural relevance began pulling the WNBA into conversations it had long been excluded from. But amid the fanfare, another force quietly moved beside her. Sophie Cunningham, a seasoned competitor with the Phoenix Mercury. Cunningham has endured the league's financial limitations, uneven exposure, and off-season reliance on international contracts just to make a living. Her career spans eras, when marketing budgets were slim and viewership was an afterthought. But what she brings now isn't just experience. It's a deep understanding of what it truly costs to survive in this league. Together, Clark and Cunningham represent a convergence the WNBA hasn't seen before. Rising influence meeting hard-earned perspective. Sports insiders have taken note of their emerging partnership, one that could lay the groundwork for more than just wins on the court. The dynamic between them hints at an organized push for change, better salaries, safer working conditions, and long-term career support. These aren't abstract dreams. They are issues Cunningham has lived and Clark now holds the power to confront. Clark's marketability has already flipped the league's financial model. Her presence boosts ticket sales league-wide, not just at home games. She's brought in unprecedented retail revenue and sponsorships, and her social media following rivals major male athletes. This gives her influence that stretches beyond the hardwood, into media, politics, and brand equity. But the question remains, will she use it to champion not just her own platform, but the collective progress of the league? If she does, veterans like Cunningham will be essential. The younger generation may draw eyes, but it's the seasoned pros who've weathered years of sacrifice that understand what real reform looks like. Cunningham has already served as a strong voice within the Players Association and has long been an advocate for sustainable change. Together, this duo symbolizes more than individual success. They may be the start of a new era where the players, not just the league, shape what comes next. But beneath that moment of silent awe, was there a deeper tension rising? One that applause couldn't hide and headlines couldn't silence? Keep watching to uncover what truly unfolded. The fire beneath the applause. Caitlin Clark's presence has become a lightning rod, not just because she's scoring at will, stretching defenses, and pulling viewership numbers that corporate sponsors can't ignore, but because in every dribble and dagger three, she's challenging a system that was never designed to elevate someone like her this fast. She didn't climb through the slow-building ladder of WNBA acceptance. She detonated it, and Michael Jordan knew it. That's why, when he declared she had that fire, the kind that scares people, it wasn't some recycled compliment. It was a warning. He wasn't talking about scared defenders or blown assignments. He meant the quiet panic behind tight smiles, the unease of seeing the spotlight shift. Jordan didn't just admire her skill, he recognized the storm she's now at the center of. The same way his own rise once reshaped the NBA's DNA, he saw Caitlin doing the same for a league that had long struggled to find its mainstream moment. Yet that fire, so bright and undeniable, comes with a cost. Not everyone standing beside Caitlin wants to be caught in her blaze. Jealousy? Maybe. Insecurity? Possibly. But what's certain is this: the welcome has not been warm. Players have questioned her resume, shrugged at her accolades, and made her the target of unnecessary hits masked as tough defense. Some say it's just part of the game, others know better. Sophie Cunningham does. She's no stranger to the grind, to being overlooked, to taking elbows without the cameras ever noticing. But she also understands something deeper: how dangerous it is when envy goes unchecked. Sophie has watched this league bend under pressure for years, scraping for resources and respect. And now, standing in Caitlin's orbit, she's one of the few who seem to get it. That this moment could either fracture everything or forge something stronger. What makes Sophie different is that she doesn't flinch. She's been here. She's felt the weight. And while she might not grab the headlines like Caitlin, she sees beyond the noise. Where others feel threatened by the attention Clark draws, Sophie sees a chance to rewrite the rules, from pay scales to primetime access. Still, the friction is real. Even as TV ratings explode, and courtside seats become a hot commodity, the temperature inside the league is rising. Magic Johnson recently made headlines for comparing Caitlyn's arrival to his own debut alongside Larry Bird. A turning point, a salvation moment. It wasn't an exaggeration. Viewership that once barely registered now outpaces some men's games. Sponsorship dollars that never touched the WNBA are suddenly flooding in. Private jets, national endorsements, a whole new level of visibility. But it all circles back to Caitlyn. And that's where things get complicated. Even Steph Curry, another master of redefining basketball, stepped in with praise, not for the viral shots, but for Caitlyn's command of the floor. "That's what makes her different," he said. Coming from the player who reinvented how the world understands range, that statement carried weight. So much weight, in fact, that fans now whisper about a future showdown between the two sharpshooters. And while Clark has remained coy, the possibility lingers like static in the air. But no moment defines this era more than what's happening right now, the transformation of tension into momentum. And while Caitlyn's becoming the face, Sophie's emerging as the bridge. One ignites, the other steadies. Together, whether they realize it or not, they're shifting the very axis of women's basketball. And as their influence grows louder, so do the questions. Is this evolution being celebrated or challenged from within? Keep watching, because what's unfolding isn't just about the game, it's about who controls its future. Caitlyn and Sophia's quiet defiance. Caitlin Clark isn't just participating in the WNBA, she's reshaping it. Her games sell out, her jersey tops charts, and her highlights dominate timelines. But as her stardom surges, so does the tension. Diana Taurasi's warnings, Cheryl Reeves' cool detachment, and Cheryl Swoops' critiques all reflect a discomfort brewing beneath the surface. To some, Clark represents opportunity. To others, she symbolizes imbalance. Yet Clark keeps showing up, unshaken, relentless, and sharp. Her game speaks louder than the doubt. She plays with a poise that transcends the pressure, making smart decisions, elevating her teammates, and delivering when it matters. The support from legends like Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal doesn't come cheap. They see something different. Shaq, once loyal to Angel Reese, admitted it plainly. She makes the right play every time. But if there's one voice standing firm beside Clark on the court, it's Sophie Cunningham's. Sophie doesn't do subtle. She plays with fire and speaks without a filter. She knows what it means to be judged unfairly, and in Caitlyn, she sees the same fire being misunderstood. While others call Clark entitled, Sophie calls it focus. Where critics see arrogance, she sees precision. She hasn't hesitated to challenge the narrative, even when it puts her at odds with her peers. Their connection isn't just about alliance. It's about shared defiance. Sophie understands the weight Clark carries, not just as a rookie, but as a face of a league that suddenly finds itself under a new spotlight. She's watched the backlash and the double standards and decided she won't be silent. Together, they're more than just teammates or rivals. They're catalysts. Clark might not be embraced by everyone, but she's forcing the game forward. And Sophie? She's making sure the noise doesn't drown out what really matters. Performance, progress, and a future that looks nothing like the past. So, what do you think? Are Caitlyn Clark and Sophie Cunningham pushing the league forward, or are their bold moves creating deeper divides? We'd like to hear your thoughts on this. Don't forget to like and subscribe.